Here we go. Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Thursday, October 10th, 2024. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning Five and Change. Excuse me. Going to be joined just a minute here by the Dean, Bill Kurelic, and the Grand Poobah, Mark Porter. Lots of good stuff for you today. We've got some video from dudes we saw over the weekend from Ohio. Your Braden Fogels of the world, your Nathan Bernards of the world, your Brody Lennons of the world, and speedster Jameer Brown from Wayne, all coming up on today's show. We're going to talk, obviously, about the big game in Eugene. I normally don't ask Mark and Bill to make a pick, but this game is so big, we're going to do that. And we've got some other great stuff to get into. Lots of cruiting going on. Also, you're busy. You don't have time to cook dinner for the peeps. You know what you need to do? Factor meals. Sweater weather pairs perfectly with savory fall foods. With your busy schedule, sometimes it's hard to eat the way you'd like to. That's where Factor comes in. Their chefs do the shopping and the chopping to bring you fresh, never frozen, fully cooked meals right to your doorstep. All you have to do is heat and eat. All of their meals are dietitian approved, so you know you're getting the nutrition you need along with the fall flavors you crave. You work hard to treat your body right with Factor. Fresh, chef-crafted meals, restaurant-like experience. Any of you have had TV dinners back in the day or microwave food that kind of gets rubbery? I don't know how they've done it, but they've made chicken delicious because we have food snobs living here, and they eat it routinely and quickly. So right now you need to head to factormeals.com/Bucknuts50. Use code Bucknuts50 to get 50% off your first box and 50% off your next month. That's code Bucknuts50 at factormeals.com/Bucknuts50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. There are some deals on here that aren't as good as others. That's actually financially a great deal. Here's another great deal. We have the Dean, Bill Kurelic, and the Grand Poobah, Mark Porter, here. And I was telling them in the intro, normally I don't ask you guys to make a pick, but this weekend this is such a big game that there are national pundits saying the Oregon game is going to replace the Michigan game this year and that we might play them twice and it's the biggest game of the year. I'm not sure I'm ready to go with that, but it's a big game out in Austin Stadium. Been very interested in the media narratives on the walk up, and we'll talk about that as we go. But here's what's also interesting. Oregon, this is a home game for them at night. What do we know about big-time teams with home games at night against marquee opponents? They get marquee visitors. What I find interesting here is they'll have some guys there that were recruiting trail, caught in between guys when it comes to the Buckeyes and the Ducks. So, William J. Kurelic, who will be at the game this weekend. I don't want to. There's always a story about the guy at Oklahoma who came to visit Oklahoma and switched sides for Ohio State by the end of the game. Who are we going to try and get to switch jerseys at halftime? Let us know who's there that we might want to keep an eye on.
Well, we know that Dorian Brew is expected to be there, and he, of course, is a Duck commitment. We also expect Richard, or Trey, I call him Richard sometimes because of his dad and covering his dad, but Trey McNutt is expected to be there. We think that we'll see, I guess, if Naeem Offord makes it out there.
That was the one I was asking about, really.
And Jakeem Stewart, the newly reclassified defensive lineman, is looking to make his official visit to Oregon for this game. So that's four pretty big names, I would say. If not 5-star status in all of them, certainly high 4-star status. So those are big ones as far as the Ducks and Ohio State and recruiting battles, either having already been, I guess, somewhat settled, as settled as a commitment can be in this day and age, or to be settled, as in the case of Jakeem Stewart.
It's very interesting. I'm not sure how I feel about the idea of who wins the game having an impact on recruiting. When I saw Deuce Knight recently flip from Notre Dame to Auburn, it was a reminder that wins and losses are no longer the number one champion of recruiting. I'm not even sure NFL potential or their ability to put you in the league is even number one anymore. It's now the almighty dollar. That said, Mark, is your sense that Ohio State needs to show the world? See, to me, this is when you get your West Coast voters. You want someone to win the Heisman off Ohio State? This is the night to do it. Do you believe Ohio State needs to put forth a winning or at least close to winning effort to maintain recruiting vibe, or you don't think you're not one who buys into that?
I think we have quickly forgot about last season already and how it ended and the way that felt and the way the country felt about Ohio State after that. And I think to undo all that, this is the win that undoes it all. If you don't win this, you know what everybody says, right? Easy schedule, won a bunch of easy games, couldn't handle another big opponent. So there's a narrative building that it's like the elephant in the room. We don't want to talk about it. That if you lose this one, jobs are on the line, people's careers are on the line, and you're now in a must win at the end of the year situation if you can get in the playoffs. Like the pressure on this game, and I don't want to be hyperbolic or whatever, but wow, like this is big boy football. This is the other side of the country. This is one of those first ever East meets West Big Ten clashes that mean something. The country the audience should be bigger than any other Big Ten game because you're getting East versus West. So yeah, I'm not one to say you have to win for recruiting purposes or whatever, but your place on the main stage in the country needs to be solidified with wins like this. Not a loss, because if a loss like this, everyone's going to go back to, well, this happened last year and it happened the year before. And so this is now a trend that nobody in that building wants to, deal with or say that, this is supposed to be the year where that trend is snapped. This is the team that was built to snap that trend, and propel it into the future, into a new day and age of, winning football. But yeah, I was thinking about it, and I just remember the way, if we didn't take on all these recruits the way we did after the end of the last year, that taste wouldn't have been washed out of our mouths. And, Caleb Downs washed some of it out of your mouth. Seth McLaughlin washes it out of your mouth. Judkins washes it out of your mouth. You start feeling real good and real positive right away. But, boy, I just think that a win, let's put it this way, the win won't feel as good as the loss would feel bad. I think we expect to win. I think we go there and win, and we're like, okay, that's what was supposed to happen this team. But if you lose, these message boards could, ignite. I mean, you've won every game this year, and I read comments questioning people and players and calls, and it's just like, wow. Throw something like an Oregon primetime, and you know what? A good game means something too. A 21-20 game and, last second field goal or something, that could feel like a win or a loss. You play toe to toe, but this is must see football Saturday night.
Yeah.
The season starts Saturday night.
You can make that argument. Let's just take that in reverse order here. I do think if they lose, now I'm obviously not expecting that to happen, and it's a very close game, provided Oregon then has the season after that we expect, it almost won't even count as a loss because you'll be on the road at night against a team ranked in the top 5. And when you get to the end of the year and you do losses, that will get washed away, especially now that there's 12 teams getting in instead of 4. What I find interesting is, and I don't know why this is taking place, but there seems, and it could be just the buck nutter in me not being a rational observer, but it seems to me a lot of the things they're saying about Ohio State also apply to Oregon, or even more. When was the last big game Dan Lanning won again? Pretty sure Oregon lost both times to Washington last year. There's also this narrative about Will Howard, how he's not battle tested and is throwing interceptions, and that Dylan Gabriel got run out of town. How's Oklahoma doing? He threw 2 interceptions in the red zone last week that I saw, and he's never won anything, national championship or anything like that. Will Howard's done fine. I don't understand that one. So that's interesting. And then,
and I saw the comment doom and gloom. I don't want to be doom and gloom. I think we very well should win the game, and we might be sitting here with a double-digit win, next week. But as you were asking that question, I kind of thought of how big and, what's actually, why is this such a big game? Yeah, last year.
2 versus 3.
Yeah.
2 versus 3, first Big Ten meeting,
Yeah, 2 versus 3. But when you
but
think
also,
of what the fans of Ohio State have been through, we've been through a mental tussle the last year or two. So it's, factoring that in, and that has nothing to do with the game. What happened 365 days ago has nothing to do with what's going to happen on a field. Totally different team, totally different players. But what the fans are going through and what the fans need, right? Maybe a better way to say it is the fans need this win. Like you're saying, if it was a loss to Oregon and they played as good as they played and Ohio State finished up good and they meet again, I don't think it's a real bad loss or any mark against you. You better win it the second time. But, yeah, I think just as a fan base, all the stuff we've been hearing and talking about and all the excitement should come to fruition on Saturday night. There should be this should be a statement type game.
It's a big crossroads game because let's practically apply this. I want to make one more point that I had earlier about the things I don't understand. I also don't understand the idea that Ohio State is not battle tested this year and that Oregon is. The best team any of the 2 teams have played so far is Iowa. It's not Boise State. So I don't understand why Oregon is battle tested when they've played. I mean, they played Michigan State at home. I don't understand. So I don't get that part. In terms of the practically apply, I mean, we just said doom and gloom. Let's take the positive side. I think Ohio State, if they win this game, almost regardless of what Texas does this weekend, now they play Oklahoma. And I guess if they win super convincingly, they won't get dropped. But if that game is close and Texas wins and Ohio State takes care of business at Oregon, they deserve to be number 1. And they may not give that up for the rest of the year. So think about this. If you expect Ohio State to win every game and win the national championship, they're going to be number 1 starting Saturday night. Well, it'll be Sunday morning here probably by that point in time. So that's something to look forward to. This is not doom and gloom. All right. We are going to pick the game. Go ahead, William.
Without giving my prediction yet, I do think Ohio State is going to win. But if by chance they lost, then ran the table, which would, of course, include beating Michigan, then go on to play the national championship game and win that, this game would be so far in the rearview mirror, you couldn't. You would need a few rearview mirrors to see it.
Well, you might get Iowa. You might get Oregon in the Big Ten championship game.
You might, yeah. No, very, very possible.
I've seen some people say they're going to meet 3 times. Be happy to do it. I mean, you know what that means if you meet 3 times. That
lots of eyeballs watching the game.
Andrew Axelrod, it's easy to understand OSU hate is everywhere. I get that, but it seems it's lazy to me. I don't understand it. I've actually been impressed with some. I heard a guy yesterday saying, go look at Carson Beck's numbers and Will Howard's numbers and tell me why Will Howard isn't being mentioned for the Heisman. I'm not saying he should be, but I do think we need to take everything And I say this as a Bucknutter as rationally as possible. That said, I think, and Mark made a good point, this weekend, it's like all roads lead to this in terms of narrative. This is going to change after this. It's either going to be everybody kissing Ohio State's butt, and they're going to do that if they win this game. Get ready for, write down all the negative things the people said, and then go back, and you'll be able to go to that name, and he will say the complete opposite if they win the game. But let's figure that out now and get into it. William, you go first. Your thoughts on the game, and I asked you guys to give us a score.
Well, like I said, I think Ohio State is going to win. I do not buy into the theory, thinking, prognostication that it's going to be a blowout either way. If this is a blowout either way, I'll be surprised. You've got two really good football teams. And I think two teams that are deserving to be where they're at. In the top 3 in the country, both of them. I think you can make a case myself for Ohio State being number 1, but I think all 3 teams certainly in the top 5 and I think they deserve in the top 3. So I think it's going to be a really good game. I think Ohio State's the better team, but playing at Oregon, going out there and playing all that it definitely helps Oregon. In the end, I think Ohio State, I just don't think Oregon is going to consistently stop Ohio State. I would be shocked if that happened. I think Ohio State will put somewhere between 30 and 40 points on the board, and I think that'll be enough to win. I'd be shocked if Oregon can score 30 points against Ohio State's defense. So I'm going with Ohio State 34, Oregon 24. And another part to this that would be nice, providing Ohio State wins, would be nice. Ohio State has a bye week. And when you go out on the road after a loss, recruiting, especially if you're Ohio State, that's not that's not the easy. It's just more difficult to walk in a building. It's a lot more fun to walk into all those high school buildings after you've beaten Oregon. We just beat Oregon. We are at least number 2 in the country, if not number 1. And it's sure a lot better to walk in all those high school buildings across the country with that O on your chest. As one Ohio State coach once told me, he said, I don't know how much having that O on our chest helps exactly when we go into all these high schools, but I know it helps some just walking in with that O on the shirt, on the sweater, on the jacket, and walking in having beat another O in Oregon.
So I don't think this is going to get the same. Maybe it will because it's in prime time. I would guess that the Alabama-Georgia game got better TV ratings, but this is a game that the entire country will be fixated on. Like I said, all your West Coast voters who have never seen the Buckeyes are going to get a chance to see them up close and personal. So the idea of regional voting for the Heisman going forward should be eliminated a little bit, as well as just general voting in your AP poll, etc.
Providing Ohio State wins, what a great time for a bye right after you beat Oregon and pretty much in the middle of the schedule. That is a great time for a bye.
It is good timing. Marcus, your vibes.
I think with everything we've said, I think the Ohio State players have been hearing this for the last year, and they're going to play this game like it's a national championship game. And I think that's the feeling in that building. It's a must-win feeling, and I think for that reason, they're going to come out, and Bill said it, it's going to be a close game. No one's going to blow anybody out, not in that atmosphere. Sometimes in these big games, I don't know if this is just my personal opinion, the points get as high as Bill has them. I mean, I think like 20-17, 20-16, something that you're sitting there in the fourth quarter and you're hoping to grind out first downs, or that's going to be a ball game. But I think Ohio State, their will and their must have this mentality, I think will prevail out there, because hostile situation, hostile fans away, things are kind of stacked against you out there, but they'll still come away. And they're actually probably a double-digit favorite in my mind. I just think it's going to be a tough environment, and that's a little too much to ask for a beatdown of Oregon at home in a night game. So fair to say we're going to win, but don't see the beatdown
score,
coming.
Mark.
Yeah, and like I said, I see low scoring.
2017?
2017, 21, 16, something where you're sitting in the fourth quarter and, it's your feet are tapping on the floor the whole time as it finishes up.
You'll get my prediction score-wise in the Bucknuts Roundtable, which should come out Friday morning, Friday early afternoon. I will say this. I'm a little more optimistic than these two vets here, but we'll go from there. These games, too, to me, once the levee breaks for a team, they tend to relax for a bit, and I think then get a little bit out of control. I don't see any team holding Ohio State to 20 points this year, barring – if Ohio State goes out there and fumbles a bunch and turns it over, then I get it. If they play a relatively clean game, like no turnovers, things like missed tackles and drop passes are the things that are going to kill you. Dylan Gabriel, if he gets loose, he's going to complete a lot of passes. By the same token, not the biggest dude. And every quarterback that's gone against Ohio State this year at some point in time has turned the ball over after he's been hit a few times. So my hope is that I don't think it's realistic to think they're going to shut him out or do anything like that, but they need to play to the echo of the echo of the echo of the whistle with Gabriel. I don't want to say out loud that I wouldn't mind a roughing the passer penalty early to send a little message, but I wouldn't mind that. Allegedly.
Just watching big games throughout my life, and this might not be traction for anything, but it seems like when two great offenses meet in a big game, everyone sits there and go, oh, offensive fireworks, here we go. And what actually happens is a bunch of first downs and a bunch of running clock and maybe a few more punts than you're normally used to but that clock goes so fast there isn't enough time to score as many points because both offenses can control the ball. And if a couple field goals end up or a couple punts, sometimes you don't get these high-scoring shootouts. And I don't see two terrible defenses that are going to let, like you're saying, the levee break where, okay, track meet, I do think our offense could turn anything into a track meet. But, boy, I don't know about the high-scoring stuff. I may be wrong about the over.
This is funny. Texas coaches are telling Team Sanchez that the Ducks are going to win. We'll see. We'll have something for Texas later on in the year. Everyone's going to get their shot. Don't worry about that. Speaking of which, you want to look good when you do this? Who's heading out to Oregon? Got to get it done. Who's this? Jeez. We're getting spammed like a mug here. Sorry about that. You know what you need? Goodr. These things right here. Goodr sunglasses. Look at that box. Look at that. Sorry. Call me Tarmac Daddy. I got these because I thought Bucknuts 1 would be juiced up and going to Eugene, Oregon. That is, of course, the way that Mr. Bucknuts travels. But guess what? The game is too late for Mr. Bucknuts. So Mr. Rubin here won't be going. That's because clearly I don't have the budget to fly private or fly at all. And that's a shame, but we'll be watching it, and I'll have my Goodrs on. If you're going, you need to bring 2 pairs of Goodrs for this. Stylish Sunnies, only $25 a pair. If you're like me and used to stop at 7-Eleven or Krauser's or Stop and Go, wherever you are, on your way to the game, pick up a pair of $5 sunglasses. You don't need to do that anymore. You get these. They're quality, high-performance sunglasses designed to make you feel like the best athlete of all time. Even if you're like me and you couldn't make the minor leagues. You got the Bolt G, the Bug G, the Astro G, shield sunglasses that prove the sky isn't the limit. If you want to support the show and try a pair, Goodr is giving Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners free shipping. You can go to goodr.com, Bucknuts, and use code Bucknuts for free shipping. Goodr offers a 30-day money-back guarantee and 100% satisfaction. That's goodr.com/Bucknuts and use code Bucknuts for free shipping. I'm not even kidding. If you're one of the people who loses your glasses, and I would be willing to bet if I let everyone here tell a story about losing their expensive glasses at a Ohio State game, you'd have the reason here, and this solves everything. So let's do it. Dietrich Sanchez.
It's not about losing it's not about losing your glasses. It's about when they get all scratched up.
Oh, sure.
That's what drives me insane. You don't put them back in the case and you set them somewhere in the car and they just jiggle on the change or they jiggle in your glove box. Next time you put them on, you're like, what happened to my beautiful lenses? And I'm going into this Goodr thing a little longer, but yeah, losing sunglasses isn't my problem. It's like every 6 months I go, that looks like someone scratched it with sandpaper. It's
like the guy you see with the messed up phone. You're like, dude, you're looking at there are friends who it would like literally cut their finger. You know what I'm saying? When it was cracked. So
that's I don't get into conspiracies, but we have bulletproof glass. We have guns that shoot into glass and it doesn't even shatter. But everyone's phone looks like the second it gets clicked on a desk, it just spider cracks. Come on, we need that glass on our phone.
Mark, the internet is not a place for conspiracy theories.
I know. But tell you what, we have better glass than what they're putting on these phones. I'm telling you. They just want us to break them, so we got to buy them again.
There you go. Yep. It's the man keeping us down. Totally.
And it's the whole screen protector industry hiding the good glass from the phone companies or something. That's the conspiracy.
I think Daniel Sanchez, this is a word out to you to buy you 3 pairs of Goodrs for the wife. Just saying. All right. William, where are you headed this weekend? We're going to get in at the end of the show, our recruiting targets for the weekend, but for the past weekend, excuse me. Where are you headed this weekend? Is this the big weekend in Ohio? Is it just another weekend? Where are we headed?
Well, before I get to that real quick, I want to get back real quickly to the visitors at Oregon for this game. I mentioned that expected at the game are Dorian Brew, Naeem Offord, Jakeem Stewart, Trey McNutt. Also, anybody remember the name Decorian Moore? He's going to be at the game, obviously an Oregon commitment. And Brandon Finney. That's 2 more guys that made official visits to Ohio State that are going to be at this game. 2 more that are committed to Oregon. And I didn't even get to the 2026 or 2027 guys like Brock Harris. As good a tight end as there is in the country. Ohio State has offered him Oregon. He's going to be at the game. Jet Washington, the safety that Ohio State fairly recently offered. Tommy Tofi, offensive lineman. I could go on down to the 2027 class. Mark Bowman, the tight end that is as good as any 2027 tight end in the country. He's going to be at the game. Oregon and Ohio State is starting to be an incredibly interesting recruiting rivalry with Oregon's ability to, let's say, use the NIL. This is a recruiting game big time because you can make a case that Ohio State, that Oregon is a bigger recruiting foe to Ohio State than Michigan now. Absolutely, you can make that case. So that's interesting. But now, as far as this weekend, I'm going to be going down to Jackson, Ohio, way down there, almost to the Ohio River. Newly offered Ohio State offensive tackle Adam Guthrie, his Washington Courthouse Miami Trace team is playing down at Jackson. And Jackson is kind of the perennial conference winner, so to speak. And this is going to be a big game. It's the toughest game left on Miami Trace's schedule. Miami Trace enters the game 6-1. Jackson enters the game 5-2. But Jackson has had a good amount of success in recent years against Miami Trace. That's going to be a good one. Miami Trace has Adam Guthrie, who Ohio State has offered. They've got Julian Baker, a 2026 running back that was at Ohio State last weekend as a guest of the Buckeyes. Those guys are talented prospects. And then for Jackson, they've got Jake Allen. He is an offensive lineman that has offers. And he probably would have some big offers if he wasn't 6'3". If he was 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", he'd probably have some even bigger offers. But it could be a good game. And as I was told by one person that's pretty familiar with high school football in Ohio, Jackson is a really good place, a great place to watch high school football. Going to be a good one.
I do enjoy my trips to Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're spoiled here in Ohio. You could literally just get in your car on a Friday night and just head out with your GPS and see the best this country has to offer in terms of pomp and circumstance. But I digress. Marcus, where are you headed?
Huber Heights, Wayne, and Miamisburg, and I'm going to go see Northmont. And hold on a second. Yeah, so it's a heater for me.
City bound.
Centerville, and Northmont. Yeah, so we got some Dayton, Ohio games there, and like as you said, get in your car on a Friday night. Has anyone ever done this when they're driving around on a Friday night? You see the sky lit up in different areas with the school lights on, and like it's kind of funny. As I drive from halftime to halftime, sometimes I come up on these different towns and it's pitch black, and then you see the dome of light from high school football on a Friday night.
If you were this is the common movie trope, but there are certain towns in Ohio. If you were a bank robber, that's the time to go. There are some towns in Ohio, people still don't lock their car doors, which is awesome.
I'd like to go
everybody is at the game.
I'd like to go up in a plane on a Friday night and just take a picture of the landscape of Ohio to see 350 stadiums lit up. I mean, there's 717 teams. There's 350 games. That's 350 cities that have a bright light in their town. So it's kind of cool to think like that.
No, you could do one of those heat maps for where people are, and it would look like bank robber.
Where all the cell phones are.
Bankroll. Solid. Let's pull the tape up here. Talk about who we saw this past weekend. Mark, I'm going to have Bill do it first and then you, and then we'll roll in the tape. Bill, who are we going to see on tape, or who did you see this past weekend, and what do we need to know about them?
I saw Jameer Brown, the 2027 wide receiver from Huber Heights, Wayne, and he was electric. He was spectacular. And I think Mark has some of those clips, perhaps, that I took at that game. He had a 64-yard touchdown reception. He had a 45-yard touchdown reception where he put a move on a guy in the open field that the guy didn't even touch him. He had him so faked out. So he was really good. And
that was against Springfield, Bill.
That was against Springfield, the defending 3-time state runners-up, big school Division I state runners-up. So he did it against top competition, and he looked great.
Marcus, where were you, and who are we going to see?
Yeah, I was everywhere. I have some good film. If you want to start it up here, we'll start with the first stop. I usually start with Bill's footage, but we had such good footage of Brody Lennon, and since he's an Ohio State commit, we figure we'll start there.
Great.
The only problem is Cleveland Central Catholic didn't put up much of a fight. That's one of the easier touchdown grabs you're ever going to see. And, that's an Ohio State tight end. You think he would have drawn double coverage maybe or somebody. So we saw we're going to see out of Brody.
When you line up on the 5-yard line at Gilmore, someone should cover the future Ohio State guy. That's just me. Anyway, Go ahead.
I agree. And basically what this film was, and it was just a half for me being there because it was a running clock by halftime, is we knew Brody is one of the most diverse players in Ohio last year. He did the same thing. That last play we just watched was him at nose man. He was at H-back everywhere blocking. He was lined up at receiver. He was lined up at fullback. He was lined up at inline tight end. So we just saw more of what we knew about Brody Lennon. This is Bill's footage of Jameer Brown. That's a foot race, and nobody's gonna, win that foot race with the 100-meter champion. That's fun to be a quarterback. There. Yeah, when you do, you just got to lay it out in front of your guys here.
Watch this move at the end. Watch this move here. Whoop!
And then he waves at him. I mean, the confidence to wave at somebody after you do that. I mean, Bill, this is certainly fun highlights. I'm sure these did well on Twitter.
Yo.
Yeah, he's even a quarterback here. So, 4 or 5 plays of him in a night. I don't know if we're going to need him to do the quarterback stuff. But, yeah, such an impressive athlete. Only a sophomore, but the explosion, size, toughness. Now, you talk about big-time basketball player. He has put on so much weight. We're going to say
Who is this, Mark?
Braden Fogle from Lexington, I'm sorry. He looks fantastic. He looks 30, 40 pounds heavier than last year. They're just throwing the ball up to him. This is against West Holmes, and he just came down with everything they put in his direction. This game actually came down to the last possession where, they had to score to win the game at the end. Braden played defense, played offense. He blocked. He's a big-time prospect. He definitely deserves the offers he has as one of the top players in the country in this class. We're just going to point out Joe Caudle here. He's the quarterback, has a Kentucky offer, linebacker type, with him on one side on defense and Fogle on the other. Big-time defensive ends for a smaller school there. So plenty more prospects to look at on that film, but those are some big-time plays for this week for the Buckeye in the Sky.
Let's address this. What you just saw on tape from Brown, that is real speed, man. Those first 2 steps look like he shot out of a cannon, but what jumps out to me also, he's longer than I thought he was. He's grown a little bit. Most of the guys who are, that's actually maybe a stretch, but guys who are sprinters, I'm like, you're talking about when you did that thing with Decory and Moore and those guys, someone like Alford's a 400 guy. He's a little bit longer. You know what I mean? Like most guys that with that body type aren't necessarily the 0 to 60 guys. So that's pretty awesome. And keep in mind, he has a Division I quarter or big time quarterback playing for him, Terrell Lewis. I think he's going to Arkansas State. Arkansas State's Division I think. I have to look
more footage like that, and it'll be real easy to justify that ranking. But you see the whole package there. This is the statement that may end the podcast, but I like him a little more than Chris Henry sometimes. Like Chris Henry, I know is the truth, but I think Jameer's got a little more juice, a little more speed, a little more burst, and that they're different genres. Chris Henry's got him by a couple inches, but like you noticed it coming out of his top to start. That's pretty impressive.
I almost
with Brown, a lot of times you go see a guy that's supposed to be 6 foot, 6'1" or whatever, and he's 5'9" or 5'10". That's not Brown. No. I mean, he is not a 5'10" guy. He's not Chris Henry, 6'5", but he's got some length to him. More, he's a guy you show up and say, "Oh, that looks really good."
I am leaving. You took my comment because I was trying to be courteous and not interrupt because everyone gets upset with me about that. And look what happens when I don't interrupt. You guys take my content. So which is it? Good Lord. Yes, and both are very impressive, John. We'll take them both. All right.
I mean, and really, one of them is like the blonde-haired girl that wins Miss America. The other one's the brunette that wins Miss America. Mark just likes blondes. Like I was trying to not break the internet by saying that, but I want to give Jameer Brown his due and his, what I think is going to be coming from him. Over the next 2 years, he's going to put on footage, things that are going to make you think maybe what I just said out loud. I hope.
We're back to the idea of, I don't think he's going to reclassify. I don't know if I need someone taking an extra year of hits if I already know I want him, but that's just me. All right, we got a huge weekend coming here, people. You want to be locked into Bucknuts. We've got guys headed out to Eugene. Lord knows what's going to go on out there. We'll have coverage around the clock. What we learned live will start right away after the game with Dave. My hope is that will be a glorious, glorious basking in the glow. And I will say that I do actually think it will be. So there's that. All right, let's do this. Appreciate you guys stopping by. Have a good one. Buck Nutters.